In one of my many auditions, I auditioned for that show and fell into a pot of jam. They were the greatest people to work for you could ever imagine. I mean, they encouraged your input, even though you weren't at that level, at their level. And if you made a mistake and you made a comment or a suggestion that was stupid, they'd say so, and they'd kid you about it, but everybody would laugh about it for the rest of the day. It was a wonderful place to work and so creative, you know, with Carl Reiner and Sheldon Leonard and Danny Thomas was one of the the executive producer, I guess, on the show. And Dick Van Dyke, I think, is one of the most talented people I have ever seen in my life. It was great. You can learn a lot, and of course, I had already learned a lot from him from watching him on television. And when you used to go on interviews in those days, you'd go on what they called cattle calls, and they don't have them anymore. The union finally made them stop it, but they'd call 100 people, and all these guys who look like you would be standing in a row, and they'd say, "Okay, leave your picture," and then goodbye, you know, and or they'd say, here are some sides. That means a few lines of dialogue on a few pieces of paper. And you didn't have much time to prep. You were going to go in just a few minutes, you know. And I know if I was a real actor, I would have drawn on characters I've known in real life. But you don't have the time to do that. So I always would fall back on somebody like Jack Lemmon or Dick Van Dyke. And I say, okay, how would Dick do this? So I got many jobs because of Dick Van Dyke. I should write him a thank you note. Yeah, I do admire him very much. He may not think of himself primarily as a dancer, but he is. You know, he's dancing, and he does a wonderful job with it. When I was a kid, they used to call that style of dancing rubber leg or eccentric. And he still does it, and I saw him do some of it at the end of one of the A Night at the Museum movies. And while they were running the crawl at the end, the credits, and he was up and dancing, and the man is older than I am, and he still moves like a kid, you know? He's an inspiration. Mary was kind of the newest member of the cast. I knew a couple of the other people, but I'd never met Mary, and she's cute as could be in the first place, you know? You couldn't help but notice that. And every man in the country noticed her walking around in those capri pants. That was an innovation in those days. It didn't happen very often, and it was in her contract that she couldn't do it every week. You could only do it so many episodes. You know, I used to watch Carl Reiner on your Show of Shows and the Sid Caesar Show, and I admired him so much and that whole company. And to get a chance to work with him, and I have worked with several of them over the years, was a big thrill. Just as big a thrill as working with anybody who came out of the movies. You know, they were trailblazers. They were establishing the fact that television was, in its own way, every bit as important as motion pictures. And that kind of stardom, that kind of level, had not really been achieved too much until, you know, Lucille Ball came along, and there were some other people, but well, I think you know what I mean. It's an important business to have been in, and I didn't notice it for many years.